who she could use and who could serve her purposes. She did want him because she then was promoted from an unknown actress into a global star.
What if the royal fairy tale the world fell in love with was never the full story? What if the shiny headlines, the emotional TV moments, and that carefully polished image were only the surface level? Because when you start digging deeper into the story of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the picture suddenly gets a lot more complicated than people expected. At first, it looked like a modern royal romance straight out of a movie. A prince, an American actress, and a new chapter for the monarchy that grabbed the world's attention overnight. But over time, that glamorous story slowly shifted into one of the most talked about royal dramas the family has faced in decades. To some people, Meghan arrived as a confident outsider who could bring fresh energy and new ideas into the royal world. But critics started to see something different. They felt the story began looking less like a royal fairy tale and more like a powerful media brand built around constant headlines, interviews, and public disagreements. Prince Harry, once widely respected for his military service and commitment to royal duty.
We can't ignore them if they keep popping up doing stuff like this. That's the thing. We're kind of in a mutually abusive, toxic relationship, aren't we? The media and Harry and Meghan, because they keep doing stuff wanting attention. Then they get quite adverse reaction most of the time. Then they react really badly to the reaction. And so it goes on.
Well, what it really boils down to is the threat they offer. If the threat was punctured, which I hope my book will do,
now stands beside Meghan in a very different position. Together, they have openly challenged the royal institution he grew up in, sharing personal experiences and concerns about life inside the palace walls. Supporters say the couple are simply telling their side of the story, but critics argue the narrative seems to change with every new interview or documentary, raising fresh questions each time another chapter unfolds. Now, investigative biographer Tom Bower is stepping back into the spotlight, pointing toward moments from Meghan's past that he believes did not receive much attention when the world first celebrated the royal romance. According to Bower, there are details and timelines that some people say were brushed aside during the early excitement surrounding the couple. So what exactly does Bower claim he discovered, and why do some observers believe these claims could shift the way many people understand this entire story?
Prince Harry, his heart seems to have softened, or there's been some sort of evolution. So I do think you're right that a lot of us were kind of caught off guard by the Prince Andrew decision, because we had grown accustomed to cuddly Charles, Grandpa Charles, with the grandkids in his lap. And when I saw the news, I thought, I don't know if I'll ever see anything like this again in my lifetime, but maybe I will because of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
The deeper you look, the more questions seem to appear. Before we get into those details, take a quick second to like the video and subscribe, because the next part of this story is where things begin to take an even more surprising turn. Another layer that keeps coming up in discussions is the lasting shadow of Princess Diana's legacy. For many royal watchers, her influence still hangs over everything connected to Prince Harry. Some critics say the comparison has followed this story from the very beginning. But here's the twist that people rarely say directly. At this point, Meghan and Harry are no longer viewed by everyone as outsiders challenging the system. Some critics now argue the situation has turned into one of the most talked about controversies tied to the royal family in recent years.
and then gets a sort of success, not just people like Meghan, but also often very controversial and, inverted commas, criminal businessmen or politicians and all the other people I've written, or the music people. I mean, I do find people who climb the greasy pole and junk victims on the way and are ruthless in their ambition fascinating. And I think that is what makes Meghan fascinating, because in the end, there are very few women who were D-list actresses who were really completely unaccomplished, but who in the end have perfected an image. And it's got to be said, I mean, if 75% of people disapprove of her in polls, 25% do approve of her.
Rather than fighting the institution, critics claim the couple continue to reference their royal connection while also speaking out about their experiences. With high-profile interviews, documentaries, and media projects appearing regularly, the public conversation keeps growing louder. And the more this story unfolds, the more people begin questioning what really happened behind palace doors. What once looked like a powerful new chapter now feels to some observers like a complicated story still unraveling in front of the world. According to Tom Bauer, Meghan's focus on Princess Diana may have been more than simple admiration. He suggests it sometimes looked like a careful strategy.
They want to hide their secrets, and I just love digging away to find out what they don't want us to know.
And that was very critical because at that moment last year, she was about to promote her Netflix series and didn't want to firstly be seen with Harry, and secondly didn't want to go somewhere where she'd appear cheap.
While the world has long respected Diana for her compassion and the challenges she faced during her life, Bauer claims Meghan closely studied how Diana connected with the public. In his view, Meghan paid attention to the small details of Diana's public image, the way she held her head during interviews, the expressions she showed in emotional moments, and the way the media captured those powerful scenes. Bauer suggests Meghan observed those moments closely, almost like studying a blueprint for public attention. But here's where critics begin raising questions. Many people say genuine emotion is something you cannot simply recreate. Over time, certain public moments started to feel overly polished to some viewers. Carefully timed interviews, emotional statements, and dramatic headlines began making some audiences skeptical.
Well, and also saying all that work to do in Africa, which he dedicated his life to, but prefers now to paddle in the Pacific in Santa Monica.
Right.
Well, he does it because he needs a profile. That's the only way they can get money, by showing the profile. And for Netflix, everything is built around the future documentary series to promote the Sussex.
Instead of creating sympathy, some critics say these moments occasionally had the opposite effect. Rather than feeling natural, they appeared too calculated for certain viewers watching from the outside. Prince Harry became part of that conversation. Some royal watchers felt protective of Diana's legacy and wondered how her memory was being referenced in public discussions. For them, Diana represented something deeply personal to the royal family. Because of that, a few observers felt uneasy when comparisons between Meghan and Diana kept appearing in headlines. To them, it started to look less like a tribute and more like a powerful image being tied into a modern media narrative.
Meghan didn't like the surname Mountbatten-Windsor. If you remember, in her first lifestyle series with Meghan with Them Forever, she says to Carling that her surname isn't Markle but Sussex.
Mm-hmm.
And she was desperate to get it. She said we'd never had a proper surname, and of course they did.
Instead of gaining the same level of respect Diana earned over many years, the constant comparisons only made the differences stand out even more. And once that line started getting crossed again and again in headlines, the whole situation slowly turned into a public spectacle that kept growing louder and harder to ignore. But as Tom Bauer explains, the Diana discussion may have only been the beginning of the story. According to his perspective, the next chapter of the story becomes even more controversial, tying into rumors that have circulated online for years. While the Diana discussion already sparked criticism, the talk about Meghan's past connections in high-profile social circles created an even bigger wave of attention.
She was warned before she married what the nature of being Harry's wife and part of the royal family would be, and the nature of how she ignored all that advice. For two reasons. One is she really did believe she could do what she wanted. And secondly, I don't believe she ever intended to stay. Mm-hmm. She always intended to take the title, take the connections and get back to California.
Bauer does not shy away from mentioning these rumors. He references old photos and reports that allegedly show Meghan attending luxury yacht gatherings alongside wealthy businessmen and well-known entertainment figures. Supporters say these moments were simply part of networking within elite social environments, something many aspiring actors and public figures experience while trying to build connections. But critics interpret those images very differently. Some observers argue that during that time, Meghan was not yet widely known for major acting roles. Because of that, they claim those social spaces may have played a role in helping her build connections within powerful circles.
She flirts openly with other men.
Who does not want to inherit a mess. He wants the stables cleaned. He wants Andrew out, and coming on to Harry and Meghan, I think for them now in Montecito, there's a moment of grave concern, because stripping the royal family of titles was unheard of in our lifetimes and for hundreds of years.
According to these critics, the path to recognition may have involved strategic networking as much as traditional auditions. And for people already questioning the royal love story, these claims became another piece of a puzzle that made the fairy tale narrative feel more complicated than it first appeared. The polished story of a self-made actress begins to face more questions when people start looking back at older photos, resurfacing reports, and online discussions that seem to appear again and again. For some critics, these details make the timeline feel far more complicated than the simple rise to success narrative that was often presented in the media. Prince Harry is also aware that these conversations exist, yet he continues standing firmly beside Meghan.
Is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
Right.
The Netflix series is over. There's no great podcast. They don't generate any money. And I don't see where she is going from here. I think she has a major problem.
Often describing their relationship as a genuine love story that developed naturally despite the intense spotlight surrounding them. But to many critics watching from the outside, the situation looks far more layered than the glossy royal romance that once dominated headlines. They argue the real debate centers around one key question: how Meghan's path into global fame actually unfolded. Some commentators claim her rise in Hollywood was not driven mainly by major acting breakthroughs or constant auditions. Instead, they suggest building connections within influential circles may have played a significant role in opening doors along the way. In those environments, meeting powerful figures, attending high-profile events, and forming strategic relationships can sometimes accelerate a career much faster than the traditional route through casting calls alone. From that perspective, critics argue that meeting Prince Harry became a major turning point that pushed Meghan into worldwide recognition almost overnight. Tom Bauer's reporting does not avoid these controversial opinions. His portrayal suggests Meghan's entry into royal life may have been shaped by a series of calculated opportunities and connections that eventually placed her directly into the global spotlight. And once Meghan stepped into the royal spotlight, the ongoing contradictions and public disagreements only seemed to make the conversation around the couple grow even louder. Critics say that if questions about her past already created debate, the events that followed made the situation feel even more complicated.
She wanted wealth and she wanted fame. And she targeted, there's no doubt she targeted Harry.
To tell the truth, I spoke to very few friends of Meghan because she put a fatwa on anyone talking to me who she could. So I sent off dozens and dozens of emails to her friends, and most of them didn't even reply.
The entire story has turned into a tangled web of claims, responses, and different versions of events. At times, the situation has become so dramatic that some commentators say it feels like something straight out of a television drama. One moment, Meghan has said she knew very little about Prince Harry before they first met. Then, in another interview, she speaks about learning details about him and the royal family before stepping into that world. That shift leaves many viewers asking one simple question: Which version reflects the full picture? Was she truly an outsider who entered royal life without fully understanding the attention that would follow? Or, as some critics suggest, was she someone who had already studied the global spotlight before stepping into it? Many commentators argue those two stories are difficult to place side by side, yet Meghan's public comments sometimes appear to touch on both ideas at different times. Prince Harry often appears next to her in interviews and public appearances, echoing similar points about their experiences. To critics who followed the story closely, these repeated messages can sometimes sound very familiar. With each new interview, documentary, or public appearance, the couple shares more of their perspective. But instead of settling the conversation, those moments often spark even more debate as audiences continue trying to piece together the full story. Every time the story shifts, it leaves more people feeling skeptical.
It is interesting how she's exposing her as a yacht girl, someone who was paid off by rich men to go and hang out.
When details appear to change from one interview to the next, the carefully built narrative can start looking weaker under the bright spotlight of public attention. For critics who followed the story closely, Meghan sometimes comes across as someone trying to keep multiple versions of events aligned at the same time, and that pressure can show. Each new interview, statement, or documentary adds another layer to the discussion, leaving viewers wondering which version they are meant to accept as the most accurate. Meanwhile, Prince Harry, once widely known for being direct and outspoken, often appears more in the background of Meghan's very public storyline. Critics say he frequently stands beside her during interviews and appearances, while the spotlight focuses heavily on messaging, presentation, and how everything unfolds on camera. Tom Bower does not soften his criticism when discussing these moments. In his view, the contradictions are not simply small missteps or confusion. Instead, he suggests they could be part of a broader strategy behind how the couple presents their narrative to the world. But critics argue that when a public story begins showing too many inconsistencies, audiences quickly begin to question it.
And that's what she used as a weapon at the time. So there were quite a few things about her personal life. I'll work them into another book, I think.
And once public trust starts to weaken, reactions can spread rapidly across news outlets, online discussions, and social media. But the entertainment industry can be extremely tough when controversy starts surrounding a public figure. When public debates grow louder and the narrative becomes complicated, studios, producers, and business partners sometimes become cautious about attaching their names to projects that might bring more headlines than success. Some critics say the real issue was not simply whether companies like Netflix or Spotify struggled with certain projects. Instead, they argued the bigger question was how Meghan and Harry handled the huge opportunities that suddenly landed in front of them. What many expected to become groundbreaking media projects ended up receiving mixed reactions from viewers and commentators. Some audiences said the content focused heavily on personal frustrations, disagreements, and long conversations about past experiences, rather than the powerful storytelling many people expected from such high-profile deals.
Declining, I think that his reputation is somewhat toxic. And I think Invictus is his only lifeline.
Hollywood often enjoys a strong comeback story, but according to critics, Meghan's repeated efforts to reshape her public narrative sometimes created even more skepticism among viewers. Prince Harry frequently appeared beside her during interviews and public discussions, often repeating similar points about their experiences. Critics say those moments occasionally made the situation feel uncomfortable in the public eye, especially when the same topics kept returning in different appearances. Some celebrities who once happily posed for photos with the couple now seem more distant, at least according to observers watching the entertainment industry closely. In that world, reputation can strongly influence opportunity, and once public perception begins to shift, professional partnerships can fade surprisingly fast. But critics argue that once the early excitement faded, the public image surrounding the couple began facing much heavier scrutiny. Suddenly, every quiet red carpet appearance, every uncertain speech, and every delayed project started fueling a bigger conversation about whether their influence was built more on hype than long-term impact. For some commentators, Meghan's reputation has now become a sensitive topic in certain circles. They claim some powerful industry figures prefer to keep their distance rather than step into a situation that could bring unwanted headlines. But the most controversial part of Tom Bower's claims goes beyond discussions about Meghan's past or the strength of the couple's brand.
Which showed that he is very commercially minded, which we'll get into later on. Which makes it impossible for him. And of course, Meghan wouldn't come back to Britain.
What really sparks debate is what he suggests about the dynamic between Meghan and Prince Harry. According to these claims, after their relationship became public, Meghan played a major role in shaping how their story appeared to the world. Interviews, public messaging, and major appearances often seemed carefully organized to present a specific narrative about their experiences. Critics argue this approach sometimes made Harry appear less like an equal partner and more like someone repeating the same points again and again during interviews and public discussions. In that interpretation, a prince once widely respected for his military service and charity work began looking different in the public eye. Instead of the confident figure people remembered, some critics say he started appearing more frustrated, defensive, and deeply pulled into the couple's ongoing media conflicts. Bower's portrayal suggests that many public moments, the photo opportunities, the hand-holding appearances, and the emotional interviews were carefully managed to maintain a particular image in front of the global audience. According to critics, this approach kept Meghan firmly at the center of the spotlight.
So when Meghan came along into the scene, I just thought, this is fascinating. How is this going to play?
While Prince Harry slowly seemed to move further into the background of the public story. What once looked like a powerful royal partnership now sparks constant debate about influence, messaging, and how much of the public narrative may have been carefully organized for media attention. Tom Bower's claims push that discussion even further. In his view, the biggest impact of this situation may not just involve reputation or media coverage, but Harry's sense of identity in the public eye. Bower argues that Meghan did not simply marry into the royal family. He suggests she also played a role in reshaping how Harry is perceived by the world. According to his portrayal, Harry shifted from being seen as an independent royal voice to someone whose public statements often appear closely tied to the couple's shared communication strategy. Critics say the prince, who once spoke with strong confidence during military service and charity work, now sometimes appears more like a supporting figure within Meghan's highly visible public narrative. For many observers, that change feels striking. People still remember the version of Harry who served in the military and built a reputation for being straightforward and courageous. Watching that image evolve so dramatically has made the transformation even more noticeable to those following the story. And as the debate keeps growing, more royal watchers are starting to ask a bigger question. If the public image surrounding Meghan and Harry was carefully crafted, how much of what the world saw was genuine and how much was carefully managed for the cameras? Some commentators believe the couple built their global influence largely through powerful storytelling. Emotional interviews, documentaries, podcasts, and public speeches all helped shape how millions of people understood their experience. But critics argue that when a narrative becomes too controlled, audiences eventually begin looking for the cracks.
I choose people whose lives are shrouded in mystery, and they've climbed the greasy pole. They want to be famous, they want to be influential, they want to be powerful.
That is exactly what some observers claim is happening now. Every new interview, every public appearance, and every media project is being examined far more closely than before. Viewers are paying attention to small details, comparing past statements, and questioning whether the story has remained consistent over time. At the same time, supporters of the couple say this intense scrutiny proves just how powerful their voices have become. They argue that Meghan and Harry are simply using modern media platforms to share perspectives that might never have been heard inside the traditional royal system. But the divide between supporters and critics continues to grow louder. And with every new headline, the public conversation becomes even more intense, turning the couple's story into one of the most discussed royal dramas of the modern era. Rather than always leading the story himself, Bauer also points to moments where the couple's children have appeared in public discussions and headlines. Critics say that certain mentions or rare appearances involving their daughter Lilibet sometimes seem to happen during periods of strong media attention. According to these critics, those moments can occasionally look less like ordinary private family updates and more like carefully timed public messaging. That perception has added another layer of debate to the already intense conversation surrounding Meghan and Harry. Some commentators argue that even small references to Lilibet have sometimes been pulled into the public spotlight instead of remaining completely private, which is often how many royal families handle their children's lives. At times, discussions about her have surfaced during major media moments involving the couple.
Well, I do think that Sussex Overdrive is unbelievable. But I mean, I don't think that he is going to get back.
Because of that timing, a few critics claim the public image of devoted parenthood becomes a stronger part of the story whenever public pressure around Meghan begins increasing. Then, according to those same observers, when the media attention shifts or difficult questions begin circulating, the couple often pulls back again and becomes more private. Prince Harry is usually seen standing beside Meghan during these situations. Critics say he rarely pushes back publicly against the narrative unfolding in the media. To some people watching from the outside, it can appear as if he is simply standing quietly while the headlines continue swirling around their family. Observers also point to past moments that sparked major headlines, such as the announcement of Lilibet's name and the conversations connected to Queen Elizabeth, which quickly became global talking points across news outlets and social media. Those moments quickly turned into massive public debates, followed by waves of emotional media coverage. According to Tom Bauer and other critics, some of these events appeared to line up closely with the couple's broader media strategy. From that perspective, critics say the pattern raises uncomfortable questions. When family moments involving children suddenly become part of major headlines, the public reaction can grow intense very quickly. In some cases, even former supporters begin stepping back from the conversation as the controversy grows louder. Some critics now argue that Meghan appears less like someone focused only on protecting family privacy and more like a public figure carefully managing attention around her personal life. From their viewpoint, nearly every public move seems connected to keeping her name circulating in the spotlight.
Harry, being a simple soul, has easily changed to suit Meghan's.
By the time some of the couple's major media partnerships began facing challenges, many commentators say the outcome surprised almost no one watching the situation unfold. Tom Bauer strongly challenges the polished image the couple once presented. In his description, the brand that once sparkled with royal fame gradually shifted into something critics describe as a tightly managed narrative filled with contradictions and unanswered questions. What once captured global fascination has, for some viewers, slowly turned into fatigue. The Oprah interview that once stunned audiences is now widely debated, with critics arguing that certain parts felt incomplete or overly dramatic. And when their Netflix series finally arrived, something many expected would build a powerful media legacy, some viewers instead felt they were watching two public figures repeating frustrations, while the audience quietly began losing interest with each new project or announcement. Now the conversation has shifted toward a bigger question about motive. Critics say many of the couple's public moves appear highly calculated, with each appearance carefully planned and every message tightly managed for maximum attention. In this situation, Prince Harry, once viewed as an equal force within the partnership, sometimes appears more like a quiet supporter standing beside Meghan as public criticism grows louder. According to some entertainment insiders, the situation has become complicated. In Hollywood and global media circles, reputation can shift very quickly, and once influence begins fading, rebuilding that image can become an uphill battle. Bauer does not hold back when sharing his criticism. In his view, Meghan Markle has not become the modern version of Princess Diana that some early supporters imagined she might represent. Instead, critics argue her story has turned into something very different. For them, it serves as a cautionary tale about what can happen when ambition, branding, and constant media attention start pushing a public narrative too far. When people step back and remove the glamour, the emotional interviews, and the ongoing media disputes, critics say the picture can look very different from the bold royal outsider story the couple once presented to the world. Some observers now see two highly visible public figures working hard to stay relevant, while their carefully crafted image faces stronger and stronger scrutiny. Bauer's claims challenge the long-running narrative that Meghan is simply misunderstood. In his portrayal, she appears more like a strategist navigating the same powerful media narrative she helped build. For many viewers, the fairy tale image that once surrounded Meghan and Harry has slowly faded. What remains, critics argue, is a story shaped by branding, media strategy, and the challenges that come with building a massive global image that eventually faces intense public pressure. The conversation around Meghan is far from finished. Old photos, resurfacing reports, and controversial rumors that continue circulating online still spark strong debates among royal watchers and media commentators even today. Every time new details or discussions appear, the story seems to grow even bigger, keeping Meghan and Harry at the center of one of the most talked about modern royal narratives. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.